Hello and welcome to the RIA Tech Talk Podcast, brought to you by RIA Workspace. We're on a mission to simplify the complex world of technology for RIAs just like yours. In this podcast, we'll be your tech guides, breaking down those often confusing tech topics into plain and practical terms. I'm David Tkach, and today we have a special guest with us. His name is Kent Tkach, and he is with Practify. And the title of the podcast today is, If You're Scaling Your RIA, Your CRM Might Be Holding You Back. And I think the big problem, and this is what I was talking with Kent about earlier, was if you've ever been frustrated by the traditional CRM that was built for your RIA or built for RIAs, it feels like it doesn't quite fit the size. Maybe you're constantly hitting roadblocks, you're trying to customize it. We've all been there, and this isn't necessarily a criticism of something like Redtail or Wealthbox or Salesforce or any of that. They do have their strengths, but there's a point where you might be scaling your RIA and you might be hitting some challenges with flexibility and other things like that. The goal of this episode is to share with you why some of these traditional CRMs might fall short, what makes Practify different, and then how to strategically think about your CRM as your firm grows. And I guess, Kent, I like to get straight down to business, but, if you want to share about yourself a little bit and, how wonderful the weather is in Chicago, because both of us are here, so you can do that, but then we can kind of get down to business. But I think, I kind of gave a high level overview, but, from your perspective, maybe introduce yourself real quick and then just kind of dive in, like, what's the really big problem that, your company solves? Because I'll be very transparent with you. For me, I always thought of your company as more of an overlay, not a replacement. And I think there's kind of a big misconception out there. So I would love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and then what's the big problem that the RIAs are having.
Appreciate it, David, and thanks for taking the time today. As I think we both knew on the first couple conversations that we had, a podcast was in order just based on our conversations about the space. So appreciate the opportunity. So you did a great job. One, on my last name, because no one ever gets it right, and I always make people pronounce it. And so I know we may have rehearsed it on the back end, but
you coached me really well. Thank you.
So Practify, yeah. So I mean, in its simplest terms, we're a CRM platform, right? And so our focus is on the RA wealth management community. We don't focus on any other segment in the market. And we're really here to build a product or to provide a product that enables RAs to efficiently grow their business, and in doing it with a product that opens the doors a little bit as far as customizations. Every single one of the firms that we work with, they're all different in their own category. And some of the competitors that you had mentioned, they've got a really good niche in the market and do a great job for some of the firms that are out there. What Practify has built is a platform that really, I talk about this all the time, of we want to keep it very simple, yet we want it to be scalable for the business. And so as firms grow, maybe they add advisors that are in a different state or different offices, and they want to start to create barriers around what people can see. But they also want to do the basic stuff of task management, workflows, marketing, and things of that nature. And so we've built a product that sits on top of Salesforce. And to your point, a lot of firms will look at us as the term overlay. We are not an overlay. We are an actual product that is built on top of Salesforce. So the difference between an overlay in a Practify product is an overlay is going to use the resources with Salesforce and just plug their product alongside of the Salesforce chassis.
So to your point, sorry to jump in and interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not like somebody's getting Salesforce, then you sit on top of that. We're
Right.
just getting Practify. It's not really for the lack of a better word, you don't need Salesforce plus Practify. It's just Practify then.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
In a simple form, that is it. We would replace the Salesforce platform.
Yeah.
As an overlay is going to be in addition to the Salesforce platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think we did record an earlier podcast about like some of the six most common or I'm sorry, most common podcasts, the CRMs for RIAs that are out there.
Yeah.
Redtail, Wealthbox, Salesforce, Tamarack, Advisor Edge, and Advison. Those tend to be, like the big
Yep.
ones. And the first, I think, three or four that I mentioned, it's just a pure CRM, and the other ones are sort of an all-in-one. But I
Yep.
think one of the things that you've mentioned is when people are beginning to try to doing a lot, and this isn't like us picking on, Redtail or
Yeah.
Wealthbox or Salesforce. It's when you go in and you're like, I'm trying to do a lot of customization and I'm just not getting it, and I'm beginning to hire consultants, and it's getting kind of complicated. And
Yep.
I think that's, with I guess it's, the size of the RIA is somewhat relative, right? We're not talking about like a solar
Yeah.
advisor or like an RIA. Generally speaking, it's probably RIA 5, 10 plus employees, maybe even a lot more than that. But I
Yep.
think it's less of the size, but it's more of, are they really extracting as much as they can out of that CRM? Or if they're using it as a simple CRM, right, then I mean, you guys don't make a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about that, because I think that's really what resonated with me when we were talking last time.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, we don't look at firms from a size perspective. We look at it more as kind of how their business is structured and what's the complexity of it. And so to your point, there could be a firm that is, 10 or 15 users that all they want is a task management platform to kind of organize their day. Um, Products out there that help with that and do really good jobs with it. There could also be a firm that's 5 users that really want to focus on automation and workflows and marketing and being able to attach other tools to their instance. And so they become a little bit more complex and need tools that are a little bit more scalable for the business, right? And so typically we'll work with firms, 10 plus users and up. But it all depends on the platform that they're on or what they're looking for. And so again, a firm that's just wanting task management, Practify is probably too much of a platform for that. Because we can do those simple things, but most firms want a little bit extra to
Yeah.
kind of guide them through growth. And that's where we'll see some differences between our platform and some of the competitors that are out there.
Yeah, and if I think the big thing is, again, I'll pick on Salesforce because they're big and they're
Yeah.
easy to pick on, right? But it could be anybody, right?
Yeah.
If an RIA is going in and beginning to hire like consultants to kind of come in and start doing like, plugins and add-ons
Yeah.
and customizing Salesforce, it might be worth their while to just talk to you guys over at Practify, right?
Yeah. We see it a lot where there's firms that, they go with Salesforce because it's the known commodity, right?
Yeah.
And then they get into the weeds and they're like, holy cow, this is more than we bargained for. And so now they're out working with consultants or engineers and trying to build a product that maybe the engineers or the consultants, maybe they understand financial services, maybe they don't. They just know how to build Salesforce. And so within Practify, we've built a product that, I like to say gets firms, 80 to 90% of the way straight out of the box.
Yeah.
We've got workflows that are pre-built. We've got reports that are there. We've got integrations with portfolio management tools, with custodians. And so when they have to work with a consultant, or if they choose to work with a consultant, they can to further the customization, or they can use our technology consultants who are employees of Practify that will help kind of extend that customization within Practify. We have a ton of firms that out of the box, Practify will get the job done, and they don't need any customization.
Yeah.
Um, and then others, they've got their widgets that they want to build in. They've got, third-party tools that they really want to connect deep with. Um, I'll share a quick story on one of the firms that we've worked with that really Practify helped from a marketing perspective. It was a local firm that I've had a great relationship with, and they're huge marketers. Like they're doing TV, radio, and they are, I mean, in their office, they've got they've got a studio that's there. And so the first time I walked in, I was like, okay, marketing is a subject that we want to be able to talk through. And so what we've
Like
been
a video studio, not just a podcast
they've got
studio.
yeah, they've got an office there that has, different microphones around. So when
Okay.
they bring in individuals, they do a TV show that airs on the
Okay.
weekends.
And
So
this is an RIA, right?
it's an RA.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right.
Yeah, yeah. And so their focus is marketing growth. I
Yeah.
mean, they are out,
Sure.
spreading their name. And so, the struggles that they had was, trying to gather all the information that they have from their marketing. So they do a news podcast on, let's say WLS, or they do it on Fox or whatever, trying to gather the information on who's attended, um, what's the ROI on those episodes, trying to gather. They were in spreadsheets and they had stuff all over the place. And so what Practify came in and did was really provide them with a marketing platform based on our CRM platform that will help identify who attended. Was there a follow-up on it? Was there a client created based on, was it based on the Fox show? Was it based on the WLS radio network? And so now they're able to track and start to budget for, hey, this specific marketing works best for us. And we were able to do that within some of the campaign tools and marketing tools that we have with inside of Practify that really brought it all into one spot rather than
Okay.
having to go to five different spreadsheets to go, okay, here's the cost, here's who attended, and they became clients. Now it's all in Practify.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
Um, so
Kent.
really
Yeah.
cool. I mean, it was a cool, it was really cool to see kind of all that come together.
Sure.
And then another one of their kind of issues was their advisors are out on the road all the time. And so mobile was it was a big deal for them to be able to go, hey, my advisor's on the road. He or she wants to type in notes, right now, rather than waiting to come to the office. We're able to connect them and then kick off different task management details right inside of our
Sure.
app. So
Okay.
solved a ton of problems, or not necessarily problems, but probably more of handcuffs because they were running the business great.
Yeah.
Doing it, it was, we went from having 10 steps now to, let's say 3.
Sure.
Uh, and
Okay.
that's a problem solver. So,
Cool. And Kent, I was just going to say you sound like you know what you're talking about. I believe you've been at Practify for a while, right? How long have you been
yeah.
there?
Um, so it'll be 5 years
Okay.
in a week.
All right.
So in Practify numbers, that's like a dinosaur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like
We
dog years, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we
Not that you're a
started.
dog, but
Yeah. I've been called worse, don't worry. But our firm started in 2012 in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, and then migrated over to the US, late 2018 into 2019, and really started kind of a marketing effort with inside of the States, mid 2019 into 2020, right
yeah.
before
Okay.
the COVID.
So your CEO is Australian, based in Australia, is that okay?
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
guys have your team meetings, it's like good day, mate, and all that
Yeah.
fun
Oh,
stuff. Is
yeah.
that all
It's
right? Okay.
they have their slang,
Yeah.
and some of us look and go, "What did they just say?" And then they joke and laugh and go, "Oh yeah, we forgot." But we've got a number of my colleagues moved from Australia and they're here permanently.
Yeah.
Our CEO, he spends about half the year between Australia and the US.
Yeah. All
So,
right. Cool.
um,
He doesn't come to Chicago, right? He doesn't, I'm
oh no,
guessing.
he's here.
Oh, he does. Oh, he comes to
He,
Chicago. Oh,
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know that. Okay.
He's
All right. Cool. Does he come in
and
the summer or in the winter?
oddly enough, he loves the snow. So,
Okay. All
he
right. He
loves
doesn't get it there. Okay.
yeah, he
Yeah.
loves the winter. So
That's cool.
all the Aussies, they, when we get half of inch of snow, it's like, it's the best thing that ever happened. So,
So listen, you and I can easily get distracted and talk about this other stuff, but going back, I think I mean, just I'll kind of walk you through the cycle that I see of what people have, and you tell me if this is right on the money or not.
yeah,
Somebody start, whatever, but they break away, they start their RIA, right? They're using Redtail. Redtail's a great CRM. They're growing, they're scaling. They like, man, we need to do more. And so they move over to Salesforce, but then they realize, oh my goodness, we got to get, some developers and we got to do this and that. And
yep,
they're taking, and the idea of Salesforce is it integrates really good with third party and it's easy to build third party tools and, all this other stuff. It sounds to me like the cycle of, from where I'm sitting, it was like Redtail, Salesforce with a lot of customization to Practify. And it's almost like if somebody went from, the cookie cutter Redtail directly to Practify, they would have saved a lot of money and headaches from Salesforce with the customization. Am I on point with that, or,
you
or
are
am I
you are
missing
spot
something?
you are spot on. And I think what happens is firms don't understand the real cost of Salesforce, which is the upkeep. And
Yeah,
so, the licensing structure is one, but then it's, how do we keep this thing running? If Salesforce comes out or pushes up updates, are the things that we're building, are those going to work with the updates that they've provided? If not, who's going to fix them? Do we have to, consult with an engineer again? Do we just keep an engineer on staff?
I
And
didn't
so
even think about that. You're right. A lot of them will, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whether they have somebody on staff or, like, so, yeah,
and
okay,
outsourced,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I always say it's not the initial license
yeah,
that is the money center for Salesforce. It's the upkeep of the platform.
yeah. Okay,
So that spigot, you're always going to the spigot for, okay, we've got we need an update here, or hey, we want to build a new workflow. Who knows how to build the workflow in our team? Nobody. Okay, let's try to find a way to do it through their trailhead. Oh, that didn't work. Let's just hire somebody to come in and build it.
yeah, yeah,
And so the cycle kind of continues. And
yeah.
so
Okay.
Practify has solved that of one, building out, pre-existing workflows, or consulting with firms that, are looking to grow and do some customizations to figure out, when does this make sense? Does this make sense on our initial implementation? Or is this a phase two as you're getting used to Practify, you're working within it, your employees are starting to do that change management, which we know is always so hard.
Yeah.
Then do we go in and say, okay, now let's build workflows, let's build reports. And we do that all through our service model. And so anytime that we're doing updates, we understand what the impact is going to be on our clients' orgs, rather than, Salesforce is going to go, hey, we're going to use this, AI agent, we're going to put it into the org, and all of a sudden firms are going, wait, now it's it it broke our integration with X, and now it's not working. So
Sure.
how do we do it?
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
then kind of comes to my point of the lack of adoption within a Salesforce, because it doesn't work. It's constantly changing. There's always things in motion. And so firms will just go, I'm just going to go back to my spreadsheet and write this stuff down and keep it
Yeah.
in
And
Excel.
by the way, I don't even know if it's a spreadsheet. They go from Redtail to
Yeah.
Salesforce back to Redtail, right? And I've
Yeah,
seen
that's
that,
right. Yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So that's funny.
so
Okay.
exactly. And so,
It was too complicated, too expensive, and it's like it's not working out.
yeah.
So yeah.
And you
Okay.
have to have, in our, like I mentioned before, change management, it's probably the hardest thing to do when buying technology. Because what firms I'll see firms will come to us and they're used to the red button that's on the left, right? And it's always worked. It's been there for 20 years. And now all of a sudden they buy this new technology like, hey, this is great. It looks better. We're finally coming into our own from a technology standpoint. And now the red button that's on the left is now a green button on the right. And nobody can process it and go, wait, how are we supposed to do this? And so there needs to be this component of change management that comes from training and talking to staff that's on site or via Zoom or whatever.
Yeah,
Practify provides all of that because we know it's a huge change going from any CRM, whether it's Redtail, Wealthbox, Salesforce, to another CRM. We need to get buy-in from the users that are using it, and in order to do that, they need to know what they're doing.
sure. Okay.
So it's one of our bigger selling points
Yeah,
from our partnership. So I like to tell firms that we're not a piece of software. We want to partner with you because as
sure.
you're growing, we're growing,
Yeah,
and it's better for everyone.
yeah. So kind of on that point, who are your best clients, right? Like, you get RIAs that are using this and they're like, yeah, these guys really appreciate it. And these are things that, the top three
Yeah,
things that they couldn't do with their old CRM.
yeah. It's a great question. So where we get real buy-in is typically from the operational side of the business. So, your COOs and the individuals who are running the day-to-day. Because once they get in deep with Practify and they understand it and they know how task management works, they know how workflows work, they really see the value, and then they become the champions to the other teammates within the organization. And so, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be size, but it's really firms that are one looking to grow. Um, One or two kind of looking for ways to take the manual type of stuff out of their business. Um, and then three is really to organize from a process perspective, to do it all in one solution. So another example I'll talk about is working with another firm. They were on another platform, and I asked them how many workflows they had, and they said over 100. And I thought to myself, like, how is this possible that you have over 100 workflows? And part of it was because the system that they were using um, wasn't elaborate enough to be able to take some of those workflows and combine them into one. So they had to create multiple workflows, whereas in Practify, it could still be a workflow, but maybe be a checklist or some sort of form inside of a workflow.
Yeah,
So we went from over 100 workflows to less than 50, and it becomes more manageable because now we can kick off a workflow that moves a prospect into a client, and that all one workflow, it can automatically kick off certain workflows that just before within their other system had to be a new workflow.
yeah. Okay.
So when you're dealing with 100 plus workflows, you know,
That's a
think of
lot.
think of a new employee who comes in and they're like, "Holy cow,
Yeah,
how am I gonna what are we doing here?"
yeah,
So
yeah.
um,
All
so
right,
those are
cool.
some of the things that we can do to help, that really kind of cuts down from that manual type of stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you the opposite of that too, because there are some RIAs listening to us where this is probably not a good fit, and that's okay, right? Because I
Yep.
mean that's why there's different players. That's why we have apples and oranges and bananas,
Yeah.
and passion
Yeah.
fruit, and everything else.
Yeah.
What would not be a good client? What's not a good fit for Practify?
Yeah, I think, kind of what we were talking about earlier in our discussion, firms that are really looking for almost like a Rolodex,
Yeah,
right? Okay, I want a list of all my clients, and then maybe a spot to jot some notes. Um, their business has been on cruise control. They're not bringing on new advisors. They're doing a great job for their clients because they know them really really well, and they
sure.
don't need spots to go, hey, if this client needs to move money, we need to do these 5 things. They just know it because that's how they do their business. And
Yeah,
so, a firm like that would get into Practify would probably see it being a little bit overwhelming. Even though, our business and our platform can be like, we can scale it down to be as simple as needed. Um, but from an economic perspective, if you're just looking for more of a Rolodex, there's better tools that are more
yeah, yeah.
economical
Sure.
compared to some of the things that we provide.
If you're using it as a basic CRM, David, here's his address, his email, phone number, stuff like that. I mean, that's not the
Yeah,
game that Practify is playing,
you
and that's fine.
you
So
can probably find some other tools
yeah.
that are just as good at doing that, that probably are a little bit more economical.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think part of the reason I wanted to talk with you and record this podcast is I just don't think a lot of people know about a lot about, at least in the space we're in, a lot about Practify,
yeah,
because I see that a lot where I'm going from, again, I mean, this could be anything from Redtail to Salesforce, and now I'm
yep,
doing all this customization. It's like, man, if that client would have just talked to Practify first, it would have just solved so many things,
yeah,
right? And again, there, an incorrect assumption, and I mean, I was guilty of that a long time ago. Is like, hey, it sits on top of Salesforce, right? It's not
yep,
like it's your own CRM. It's not a Salesforce add-on or anything of that sort, and it makes a lot of sense to do that. And I think the key is this is really comes in handy, and I see this with RIAs that are scaling their RIA, and their CRM is holding them back, right? Like their
yep,
CRM is a gold mine, and if
yep,
you've always suspected that your CRM is a gold mine and you're not able to do more with it,
yep,
you should definitely talk to Kent and the team over at Practify.
yeah.
So
And you make a good point about um, Practify in being out there, especially on some of the reports that come out, because you'll always see, what are the top 5 used CRMs.
yeah,
In a lot of these reports, Salesforce is listed, but that includes a Practify. So they just roll up a lot of the overlays in some of these other products that are that are built on top of Salesforce
yeah,
under the Salesforce umbrella. So
yeah,
if you were to dive into, let's say there's Redtail, Wealthbox, Advise on, and Salesforce. Well, Salesforce may have 5 different other platforms that have rolled up to it, and so people just see, oh,
yeah.
Salesforce. And so a lot of those reports, that's how they're built of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then the problem I have is they don't do a really good job of this doing a distinction between the size of the RIA,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's and I know they look at AUM a lot, but
Yep,
employee headcount's another important piece.
yep,
And again, with certain AUM or with a certain employee headcount, certain CRMs are great, but then you hit a certain number and you're like,
yeah, yeah,
it's just, it's just
yep.
not. And so yeah,
And there are
I
some
agree
firms
with
that
you.
have, yeah, there are some firms that have, that market where, hey, let's say it- it's a it's a big broker dealer that has a relationship with the CRM, but they give their advisors, who are maybe 1 person, 2 person, 4 person kind of firms, the ability to use their approved CRMs,
Yeah.
and so they're looking at data from a different kind of perspective.
Exactly, yeah. And in those cases, it's almost like they're dictated, like you have to use XCRM. They're
Yeah,
they're not choosing it. And so, but
yeah,
anyways, I don't want to get too much into that.
yep,
I guess just maybe two things, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
yeah, sure,
Anything unique or anything that I did not ask. Whether I don't want to ask about you, I'm sure there is, but about Practify,
yeah.
something I didn't ask or something that's unique that the listener maybe should be aware of, and you're like, oh yeah, that's just sort of an immediate red flag. I should definitely talk to Practify.
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of good points, and again, kind of coming back to the servicing side of Practify, where when people are looking at Salesforce, they're not getting that they're not getting that side of the equation. And so when I talk to firms, I'm really I'm really trying to push them to getting them thinking about us as a partner, a real true partner of, hey, we're going to help with training and implementing and consulting and building. We have those employees at Practify. That's all part of the client experience.
Okay.
And so the one thing that I try to get firms that are looking at Salesforce, because they know that, hey, here we get the platform, but now we've got to do all this other stuff. And so firms looking at Practify sometimes think the same thing. Hey, we'll get the license, but now I got to go hire, a bunch of different engineers to build this. And that's not our business model. We want to get firms to not have to come in and do a ton of customizations, because when you start adding customizations, that includes time, and time
Sure.
includes money, and and resources, and things like that. So really, I think the key thing for the listeners to kind of hear is that we are a true technology partner, and not kind of a piece of technology.
Sure. Okay. And then what's if this resonates, and again, from my perspective, again, I've seen it, right? I've seen it
Yeah.
where people are they've outgrown their CRM, they're trying to do a lot more with it. And honestly, they just haven't reached out to Practify. And I think, a call, a demo,
Yep.
just a brief discussion with you or somebody on your team would be really valuable. What's, maybe share your contact information, and then,
Yep.
what's typically involved? Is it like a discovery call? Is it a demo? Maybe walk through, what that looks like.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. So we've got a ton of information on our website. It's practify.com.
And
My
that's
PR,
www.practify.com, right?
that's right.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. I just want to make sure we say that the right way.
Yes. Thank you. I'm just so used to saying it, but I have seen even clients of ours email and spell it wrong. But Practify.com, you can see different webinars and videos. There is a spot on there to connect to set up a demo,
Okay.
which would then connect the individual to one of our sales team members.
Okay.
And so typically what will happen is we'll get a message that, hey, David's interested in a demo. We'll set up an initial kind of discovery call. I like to do this because one, I have no like going in blind to a demo, like we
Sure.
could go all over the place. And so, what is it that you're really kind of looking for? How do we get some input from you on, here are maybe three things that we're really struggling with. And so the more that we learn about, some of the needs and wants from a firm, we can tailor the demo to that. And rather than showing you things that you're like, yeah, we'll never use that.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so my email is Kent, Kent, dot Tkach, Tkach, at practify.com, Practify.com.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing that, Kent. And if you're listening, we'll include Kent's contact info in the show notes, so you can reach out directly to Kent, and Practify. But yeah, I think Kent, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Unless there was
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up.
No, I would just say, obviously technology there's a lot of it out there. If you look at, Kitches's map, there's a million things on that map these days. And I know it's, sometimes daunting to take a look at it, but even if you're just curious about, how we're working with some of the other partners that you're at, or other tools that you're using, we're happy to have those conversations to act as kind of a technology consultant to see if Practify could be a potential fit as well.
Sounds good. Kent, I know you're busy. I know it's cold here in Chicago. Actually, it's not too bad today. What is
No, we
it?
got a big warm up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what, 32 degrees or
Yeah.
34,
Flip-flops
so
will be out.
yeah, the sun's out. We're going to be out in shorts, so
Yeah.
hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And then for the listener, I think the key message is, look, if you've been frustrated with your CRM and it feels like it's not scaling with your firm, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to Kent and look at the Practify website. Because again, from my experience, not a lot of people know that this is another option that's out there, that you don't have to do a lot of hire a developer and customization of Salesforce and, some of the other things like that. So with that, Kent, I want to thank you. I want to thank the listener for
Thanks,
listening to the
David.
RIA Tech Talk podcast, brought to you by RIA Workspace. For more podcasts and resources, go to our website at riaworkspace.com and check out the Learning Center. Feel free to reach out to any questions or topics that you'd like us to cover, and stay tuned for more RIA Tech insights for our next episode.